Next on the Delaware Way, Newcastle County has a unique program that helps police deal with the mentally ill. We'll talk to the chief. This is the Delaware Way. Welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. The Newcastle County Police recently received recognition, the Oustand Criminal Justice Program. It's in honor of Beau Biden. What's that all about and what comes with it? Well, here to talk about that is Colonel Vaughn Bond Jr., with the Newcastle County Police. Sir, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So what is this award?
Well, this award is very special to the Newcastle County Police Department. It's something that we're very proud of. As you know, and we talked about before in previous shows, individuals who are suffering from mental illness are often people that we interact with in our line of work. And one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that we were providing the correct service and appropriate service to those individuals. Many years ago, when I initially came on the police department, the way that we dealt with a lot of the individuals who were suffering from mental illness was simply if there was an arrest that we could make, we would make the arrest, and there was never any real follow-up so that this person can get the help that they needed to avoid being arrested in the future. And as time has evolved, we have learned that many of the individuals we come into contact with, 1 out of every 10 people that we deal with suffer from some sort of mental illness. 1 out of every 4 individuals who are shot and killed by police officers in this country are suffering from mental illness. And so that prompted us to think about ways that we can improve and increase our involvement and our interactions with those individuals so that we wouldn't have to use force. And so Seattle Police Department had a program where they teamed up a mental health professional along with a police officer, and they responded to not all calls for service involving mental illness, but many of those calls, and they did follow-ups. And so I brought it to the table with the command staff, and Captain John Treadwell has taken the lead on it. We went to the Criminal Justice Council, laid out our plans of what we wanted to do, and we sought grant funding.
And the plan is that you have someone in the car for every mental health call?
No, we have quite a few mental health calls for service. And so they go to those calls for service that are rather involved. They do follow-up on those individuals who are suffering that are repeat calls. For instance, we had an individual who was suffering from mental illness that called the police department 30 to 50 times a month. And the family...
What were the calls about?
They were ranging anywhere from strange noises to complaints, hallucinations, and many of these individuals aren't being treated. And then there are some who are being treated, but they're not taking their medication as prescribed. And so it really is a significant impact on our resources.
And that person's being helped now?
Yes. We've been able to, Officer Kearns and Sarah, who's a mental health professional that's assigned to us, work with this individual as well as their family. And as a result, we've been able to make sure this person is getting the treatment that they needed. They're taking their medications, and knock on wood, we have not heard from that person, but we know that they were given the appropriate guidance and resources. So it's been very successful.
Have you had any of these cases where the mental health professional went along that you thought to yourself, wow, several years ago that would have turned out much differently?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually witnessed a call for service one day. I was out and I heard a call for service in an apartment complex off of Route 40. An individual had a knife. He was holding the family at bay as hostages inside of the apartment. And we had several officers that responded to that call for service. I responded. I stayed in the background. I allowed the officers to do what they did. They de-escalated that situation, got the family out, was able to take that person into custody. And I thought about how we would have handled that back in 1991 when I came on. And in all likelihood, there would have been a use of force against that person. We would have thought that we were doing the right thing, but we would have come in there aggressive. We would not have tried to de-escalate the situation. And in all likelihood, we would have used force on that person. And quite possibly deadly force because he was armed with a knife. So to see this evolution and the way that we're treating these a segment of our population that has been underserved for quite some time is very impressive, and I'm very proud of.
The program itself, does that have a time limit on it?
Well, the grant has a time limit on it. We will be finishing up the grant, but our plans are to continue with the program. We are still seeking additional grant funding, and we're talking with Connections and Chris Devaney and Amy Kivas, and we're all on board that we want to keep this program going. And in fact, we want to increase it. Currently, we have one officer and one mental health professional, and we would like to see that increased by at least another officer, another mental health professional. So I think everyone who works in this area recognizes the need for it. And when you have a program that's serving a segment that has been underserved for so many years, I think we're all on the same page. And, with or without the grant funding, we're going to have this program. We're going to keep this program going.
I know the Lieutenant Governor has this big behavioral health symposium and push. This sounds like it would be something that would go hand in hand with that and might come with some state funding.
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, Captain John Treadwell, he sits on that, and so he's heavily involved with that. And again, it's being recognized what we're doing, and as you said, it's something that we would love to see duplicated and replicated throughout the entire state, because not only the Newcastle County Police Department dealing with individuals who suffer from mental illness, but every other agency is as well.
I remember one time you were here, we were talking about if you had your radio here, it would be going off, and most of those phone calls, or many of those phone calls, would be mental health phone calls. When we come back, a few years ago, the Newcastle County Police Department started a cold case unit, and I want to find out how that's doing. I also want to talk about the police chase that I know you weren't involved with, but what is the system? What is the protocol with these chases? Because it ended up with 3 people dying in Philadelphia in a horrible accident. We'll talk more about that with Colonel Vaughn Bond Jr. from Newcastle County Police when the Delaware Way continues.